Hello and welcome back to another Inspiration Clan video tutorial. Today we're going to be looking at Photoshop menus, an introduction to the Photoshop menus, what they're used for and how you can use them in Photoshop to enhance your workflow. So we'll jump straight into Photoshop and you can see at the very top of the interface we've got the menus File, Edit, Image, Layer, etc, etc. So let's start with File. Very simple, very common to other applications as well. So you've got New, Open, Open As, and then below that we've got our Close and Save option. So we can close all. Close all is very handy. Close all documents that are open. We've also got Save and Save As. A few other options in here such as Export, Generate and Share. We've got Place Embedded, which we use quite often in our photo manipulations. We also have things like Automate Scripts and Import, Print if you like to print a lot. So that's File. Let's move over to Edit. So this is now editing your document or within your document. So we've got things like Undo. We've also got Step Backwards and Step Forward. It's worth noting here because I use these as keyboard shortcuts much more than I do actual coming up to the menu and selecting Step Forward. So we've got on the right all the keyboard shortcuts. You'll see in all the menus you've got the keyboard shortcut on the right. So when you're performing an action, have a look. So Step Backwards, for example, Alt Control Z or Alt Command Z, depending whether you're a Mac lover or Windows lover, and that will perform the step backwards for you. So it will save you coming up to the menu, clicking Edit and clicking Step Backwards. It's just much more efficient to sort of memorize these keyboard shortcuts. You'll quickly remember the ones that you need, I can guarantee. So that's Edit, Step Backwards, Step Forwards. We've also got things like Cut, Copy, Paste, so exactly the same as other documents or web browsers. You've got Copy and Paste, Command or Control C, Command and Control V. You've also got Spell Checker in here, Fill for example, some more advanced editing tools like Contour Aware Scale, Puppet Warp, Perspective Warp, some brush settings, Purge, more settings down here that we don't use that often. Keyboard shortcuts, very handy if you want to see all the keyboard shortcuts. Then we've got Preferences, very handy indeed, so you can sort of customize Photoshop even further by going into the Preferences. So that is the Edit menu. Next we'll come over to Image. Now Image relates to actually editing your image. Now one thing I want to quickly point out here is this is going to apply directly to your image. So once you apply like adjustments from here, you aren't going to be able to reverse them very easily. So these adjustments here actually are exactly the same as the adjustment layers here. We cover that in other courses, adjustment layers and working non-destructively. Essentially this is non-destructive, you can go back in and edit, and image adjustments up here will be destructive. You can't go back and edit very easy at all. So we've also got auto tone, contrast, things like image size and canvas size, image rotation for example, all very handy indeed. So next up we have layers. Now I'm assuming you know a little bit about layers now if you're in Adobe Photoshop. So we've got our layers over here. If we just create a few new layers, you can see our layers here, and we want to come up to layer, and now we can perform various options or edits to our layers from the menu. So maybe we want to create a new layer. As you can see, we can do that from there, and that adds a new layer in. So all of the options are in here. Delete layers, we've got rename layers, layer styles for example, new fill layer, layer mask, vector mask, loads and loads of options. We will be releasing shortly a full course on layers with all these different options explained nice and clearly for you, but for now you just need to know where they are. Very handy. Group layers for example, arrange layers, so many different options. So next up we have the type menu up at the top. So we've got if you're working with any form of type, you can come in here and you'll be able to edit that type. Yeah, very simple really. We've also got select menu up here. So working with selections, I'm sure again you know a little bit about selections. So if you come up here to select, this one's actually really handy indeed, the select menu. There's a few hidden gems in here. So some of my favorite options are actually in the modify menu, which things like expand and contract. So you can expand your selection by a certain amount of pixels, very handy, and contract, also feather. You can transform your selection, load and save your selections, also a very unknown feature in Photoshop, but very handy indeed. So that is select. Next we have filters. So filters are more advanced. For now I'm just going to explain that they're here, roughly what they do. These are sort of filters you can apply to your images, similar as you apply filters to enhance your image. If you wanted to create a retro effect, you would apply a retro filter maybe. It's kind of similar in here, but much more advanced. You can do various bits and bobs, create really realistic effects using the filters here. You've got more advanced filters in the filter gallery, such as lens correction and liquify, for example. They're much more complicated, again, to be covered in other videos. 3D, I don't do too much 3D work in Photoshop. I feel like there's other software that's better for 3D editing, but if you did want to create some 3D type or just some 3D objects, then perfect, you can do that all in here. All the options are in here. We've got view. Now view relates to the actual view, so if you're zooming, for example, zooming in and out, your screen size, adjust to fit, things like that. Lock guides, clear, so it's like the view of your workspace as such. Again, very similar to other applications. Zoom in and zoom out, command or control plus and minus, very handy. Shortcuts, and fit to screen, control command 0. Good shortcuts there. Next we have window. Now window is essentially in Photoshop you can have different workspaces. So for example, workspace, you can have different setups here. So say one workspace was when you're working with type, and another workspace was when you were working on a photo manipulation. You can save your workspaces here, and that's going to change all of the panels and arrange them nicely for you, exactly how you saved them as a preset. So this is how you put these panels over here. So if I wanted the character panel, I'd simply click the character panel, and that's going to bring that out for us here. So Windows, very good indeed. Good to have a look around and see what you can find in there. Have a play if you're new to Photoshop. Have a look at the layout and see what works for you. Lastly, you have the help menu. They should probably put a Google search in here, because I'm sure if you get stuck in Photoshop, you're going to search for Google, or hopefully search for other videos and find exactly what you need. So there you go. That is a rundown of the Photoshop menus, what they're used for, a little bit of an explainer as to what's in each menu. Very simple, and follows the same as your operating system, Mac or Windows. So thank you very much for joining me in this video lesson. I shall see you in the next one.